honor, uphold, and preserve the Constitution of St. Christopher and Wales and the law, and preserve the Constitution of St. Christopher and Wales and the law, and that I will conscientiously, impartially, impartially, and to the best of my ability, discharge my duties, as and do right, to all manner of people, without fear or favor, affection or ill. So help me God.
I should apologize for. Well, I shouldn't apologize. What I should do is just do full disclosure. The actual that was the ceremony for the swearing in of the new Governor General. The actual swearing in ceremony itself, which you just heard, you noticed the audio was kind of dodgy, right? When I looked, it was almost inaudible. I actually had to do some technical stuff to get it louder. So
in the jam store,
yeah,
because I was able to hear and others were able to hear as well.
Yes, but it doesn't meet my standards actually.
I understand,
and there's some people who tell me,
yeah,
there's a practical person I have in mind who, when they hear that, he's gonna tell me I shouldn't have played that part.
Oh wow, yeah,
this is what I have to deal with.
Yeah, and persons, the stream is up. I know that the stream was down at the start.
I hope you don't misunderstand. Just the part, the actual swearing.
Yeah.
That bit, I had to. It was practically inaudible during the actual live ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
So this morning when I got the audio, I had to amplify it.
Yeah.
And not only amplify it, I had to take noise out because when you're bringing up the volume
you bring
of the
up
voice,
everything else.
Exactly. So I had to take out. So it sounds much better than it would have sounded, because it was bringing up room noise.
Yeah.
There was a hum in the room. All of that I had to take out. So
appreciated, Jamster.
Yeah.
Appreciated.
Okay, so I'm wondering why they chose such a peculiar time. I don't know if it had something to do with maybe the Governor General had to be sworn in precisely at the beginning of at the end of 1 month going into another month, and they had fireworks afterwards, by the way.
Yeah, they had fireworks.
Yeah.
Well, I think in an announcement the Prime Minister indicated that we would have a new Governor General by the 1st of February. So perhaps it was in keeping with what was said, having the new Governor General by the 1st, because by the time the shot ceremony took place, I would assume that it was the 1st of February. So we have another guest, our first guest for the morning. We have our first guest for the morning, Mr. Percival Hanley. And so as we prepare to meet our guests, we'll take a short break, acknowledge our sponsors, and get right back to you.
Hi everyone! Welcome to Conversations with Our Kids.
Tune in every Saturday morning to Conversations with Our Kids.
Oh my gosh! I am so excited for this show. I feel like a professional radio announcer already. I am nervous and excited at the same time.
10 a.m. is Kids Time on WINNFM. Conversation with Our Kids.
I made sure to tell my entire family, my teacher, classmates to tune in. Tune in.
Conversation with Our Kids.
We're going to talk about education, religion, money, family life, social media, and other interesting topics. This is a show for kids, created by kids. Conversations with Our Kids. Every Saturday morning at 10, only on WINNmedia.
Listen live on WINNFM 98.9 or at WINNmediaSKN.com. Conversation with Our Kids. Every Saturday morning at 10, only on WINNFM. Also streaming live at WINNmedia SKN on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
It's 8:27. Coming up at 8:30, we've got Percival Hanley, and it's all about the History and Heritage Month in St. Kitts Nevis. And of course, folks, you know that this month is also Black History Month. I think it's also reggae. It's also Reggae History Month in Jamaica. So February is chock full of observances, and it's very timely on our 40th anniversary of independence. Did you guys realize this is our 40th anniversary of independence? Well, it is. And we've got History and Heritage Month all February as a perfect segue into the 40th anniversary of independence. Is there anything else you wanted to?
Well, we know that, as you said, we celebrating 40 years of independence this year. It is a tremendous milestone for a small island, Twin Island Federation. We know that it's also Heritage Month, and so we're looking at the 400th anniversary of when we had the British settlers come to our shores. And from then till now, what has happened, how St. Kitts and Nevis has transformed over the time, the 400 year period. And so I know we're a bit early, but being early is good.
I think you can go ahead. It's just about 30 seconds until it rolls over to 8:30.
Okay, awesome. So we have Mr. Percival Hanley here with us this morning. He's the general manager of the Brimstone Hill Fortress National Park Society. And so, Mr. Hanley, pleasant morning to you.
Pleasant morning to you also, and thank you very much for inviting me to this program this morning as we begin our activities for the History and Heritage Month of activities this year. We have been dormant for the last 2 or 3 years, and I think everyone knows why, in the fact that we had the COVID-19 pandemic, and therefore much of the activities that we would have engaged in had to be cancelled because of the protocols that had to be acknowledged. So this year we have decided to get straight into it, and we are full speed ahead with our planning. And today, of course, being the 1st of February, we normally celebrate in February, marks the beginning of the History and Heritage Month.
Yes, and so you have a number of activities this month for history and heritage. I'm here looking at the calendar of events, and I am even excited to see some of these things happening. We had a discussion before about it, and could you give the listening audience and those viewing as well understanding of what is to happen this month in celebration of our history and heritage?
Okay, great. Our first event, as it were, would be a launch address by the Minister of Creatives, Mr. Zamal Duggins, and he will be on air sometime today, I think, giving a speech regarding the history and heritage of St. Kitts and Nevis, and talking towards the theme, which is 400 years of ancestral creativity and ingenuity. As mentioned before, that theme came about because we were thinking that this year, 2023,
Yes.
is actually 400 years since that famous date of 1623. And therefore, we thought it appropriate to have some recognition of the fact that we have been existing as a modern nation for 400 years. And it just so happened that it coincides with the 40th anniversary of independence this year.
Yes.
And so we thought it's significant that we would use some reference to that as our theme for this year. The theme usually helps to determine certain things. For example, you'll notice that on the 9th of February, which is a Thursday, the Charles Halbert Library will be launching a book display. They use the theme to determine the type of books that they will put on display. And so people who are interested in doing more research or finding out more about St. Kitts and Nevis, and you could even call it themselves,
Yes.
over these last 400 years, can check that library display at the Charles Halbert Library. It will be on from the 9th, and it will continue through to the rest of the month. So you can go there and reference those books and see what they have to say about our history. Also, we have a lecture, this is a Probing Innis Memorial Lecture. I'll give a little more about that, but that also will be centered around the theme. And so most of the things that we do, we try to use the theme as a central focal point.
And give persons who might not be aware of the theme just a recap of the theme again.
Okay, the theme, celebrating 400 years of ancestral creativity and ingenuity.
Yes.
Okay, this is to say that over these years, and if you notice in there, we have not said anything about colonization.
Yes.
Because we're trying to avoid thinking that we are celebrating colonization. We are not.
Yes.
What we are trying to focus on and help people to steer their mind towards is the fact that we want to celebrate our achievements over those 400 years.
Yes.
Well, there were struggles also,
Yes.
but we have to recognize those. So we are looking at our struggles, but focusing on the achievements through those struggles over the last 400 years.
Yes.
So, for example, some of the high points of those 400 years was, of course, emancipation was one of them. Then we moved from emancipation to statehood, where we had our first internal self-governance system established. Then we moved from there to independence 40 years ago. And so, to me, that is progress.
Yes.
And therefore, we need to look at and celebrate those. And we have to look at it in the context of, yes, the struggles that we went through to achieve that, which makes it even more significant in the fact that we survived all of those struggles to be what we are today.
Yes. And we have so many more things to look forward to, as just today, this morning, we had the first female Governor General being appointed, sworn in. And so we see another accomplishment here within St. Kitts and Nevis.
There you go. So
Yes.
you see, all of these things we're celebrating, the achievements and our successes and our progress. And so that's what we want people to focus on and to highlight. But to continue with the schedule of events, so we have the launch address, which will be today. And then on Sunday, our committee will be attending the St. George's Pro Cathedral to have a church service there with that congregation. Every year we choose a different church, and so this year comes around for the St. George's Anglican. And that takes place at 8:30 a.m. So anyone wants to join us at St. George's, feel free to come in. More than likely, the sermon might be talking somewhat towards the theme, and we might learn something there. Then, as we mentioned earlier, the library book display gets underway from the 9th of February, and it continues for the rest of the month at the Charles Halbert Public Library. So please go and visit the public library, look at the publications that they would have on display, and do have a read. They might be very instructive to you. Then we have the Sir Probing Innis Memorial Lecture. Just to give you a little background here, Sir Probing Innis, as we know, he was a former governor of St. Kitts and Nevis, and he was actually the president of the Brimstone Hill Fortress National Park Society. while doing so, and I think most people know he's a historian. He's written
Yes,
many books
yes, yes.
on the history of St. Kitts and Nevis and so on. So I'm sure his books will be on display also. And so Probin Innis conceived this idea of a history and heritage. First of all, it was a week of activities. And so it was his brainchild. And he nurtured it, and this was like maybe about 18 years ago.
Yes.
And so he developed it. But as we know, he passed some time ago. And what we have done is, it used to be called just the History and Heritage Lecture. But what we have done is we have decided, in honor of him and his achievements and the fact that he created this event, that we would name it after him. So
Correct.
we now call it the Sir Probin Innis Memorial Lecture.
Yes.
And so that we have stamped his name on it to honor him accordingly. Another honor that we gave him, I'll mention later down when we come to the primary schools quiz.
When we talk about the lecture, the memorial lecture, has consideration been given as to who the speaker would be this year?
Not yet. We are in the process of sourcing a speaker. Each year we try to find a speaker, especially based on the theme,
Yes.
who can most appropriately address the theme and create a topic around that. Usually we have a lot of institutions and persons who assist us with the history and heritage. And I'll just give a quick rundown of those. The Brimstone Hill Fortress National Park Society, the Nevis Historical and Conservation Society, the St. Christopher National Trust, the Department of Culture, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Youth Empowerment, Aging and Disabilities, the History Club of the CFBC College, the Charles Halbert Public Library, and the University of the West Indies Open Campus. And the last one, the University of the West Indies Open Campus, they're the ones who usually take on the mantle of organizing and presenting the memorial lecture.
Awesome.
And so they're the ones who would source. And the thing is, because of their, to use the word tentacles, their tentacles throughout the region.
Far-reaching.
They are far-reaching because, the University of West Indies has campuses throughout the Caribbean.
Yes.
Not only that, but they have a wide alumni.
Yes.
And so they search through their professors and their alumni and so on to find the adequate person to address the topic. Many times we have local persons addressing the topic, especially, for example, things like medical stuff. We have lots of nice medical doctors who give some wonderful presentation. We have some historians, for example, Sir Probin himself used to present. And so we've had lots of local Kittitian presenters, but every now and again, to just broaden that horizon, we would seek persons from a little further afield in terms of the Caribbean.
Yes.
And ask that they address the topic. So they're currently resourcing the presenter for this year, but they have not yet done so. But as soon as we know, we will let the public know who the presenter is. The thing is this year, though, as it was last year and the year before, is that it will be virtual. Now, normally the lecture is done in person at the university center, but this year the university is doing some renovations and whatnot, so their premises aren't available. Plus other little logistical situations that would indicate that it's best to do it virtually again. The thing is, even if we did it in person, we'd also do virtual too, because it means that we'll have a further audience reach.
Yes.
So even when we return to in-person lectures, we will also still do it virtually to make sure that we reach not only the public in St. Kitts, but the public in the Caribbean. Because we have found that the public in the Caribbean pays an interest to those lectures.
And you find too that a lot of young persons especially pay attention, perhaps not going in person, but actually looking on their devices.
Yes.
And COVID-19 has presented opportunities where persons now respect virtual presentations far more than they did before. And so it creates a large as you say, platform to reach others. There are other things on the list that...
Yes, so the lecture takes place, we haven't ironed out the date. It will depend, of course, on when the lecture is available. But we have slated between the 22nd and the 23rd of February as the date for that. So put that on your calendar for now, but it may change depending on the convenience to the lecturer.
Yes.
Then on the 22nd, the CFBC, remember they're one of our collaborators, the CFBC will launch a cultural fair and exhibition. Awesome. That is usually very interesting because what they do is they put together a number of artifacts, like a little mini museum of artifacts that our parents, grandparents, and beyond used to use in those days.
Yes.
You know, the kind of stoves they use, the kind of things they use around the house, and different types of stuff they used to iron the clothes with, and so on. They put those on display along with food items. So they cook local stuff the way we liked it before, rather than, you know. So that comes on the 22nd. It's a Wednesday, and it goes to the end of the week, Friday. So Wednesday the 22nd to Friday 24th will be cultural fair and exhibition at the CFBC. And then we have the History and Heritage Hike. That's another feature. And here again, one of our other collaborators come into the play, which is the St. Christopher National Trust. They will be staging this hike.
Yes.
And it will come off on Saturday, the 25th of February, starting at 6:30 a.m. As the time gets closer, we will give persons more details, and we will circulate it via social media and on radio so that people can be aware and register for it in time. Interestingly, it will be staged. We stage at different places each year.
Yes.
This year they have chosen Brimstone Hill. And I will promise everyone that they'll want to do this. Why? Because you will see Brimstone Hill like you've never seen it before.
Yes.
Because it's not the typical drive up to, remember, it's a hike.
Yes.
So we're going to be hiking Brimstone Hill, but not via the road.
Oh, not via the road.
Yeah, it's going to be through unusual paths that people may not have used before. I can guarantee them that. And also, they will get a lot of information about Brimstone Hill and about our history in St. Kitts and Nevis, and even bits and pieces about our flora and fauna as we go along. So it's something not to miss. And that comes off, as I say, on Saturday, 25th of February at 6:30 a.m. Then another of our collaborators, the Ministry of Youth Empowerment, Aging and Disabilities, they will be staging a senior citizens social. This is also another very interesting event that is always highly anticipated, because, as you know, our seniors, they don't get much opportunity to go out and to have a good time, especially the way they like it. But this is an event which we hold, and it comes off on Sunday, the 26th of February, at our Brimstone Hill headquarters in Taylor's Range. We call it Matheson House. But it's by invitation only, so the public doesn't get involved in this one. It's by invitation only, so only those persons that have been given invitations by the Ministry of Youth Empowerment, Aging and Disabilities will be able to attend this. We have a limit of 150 persons, and so we'll be entertaining 150 senior citizens, and they like this, and they look forward to it every year, because not only do we give them entertainment by local entertainers, but we also give them the chance to entertain us and themselves. So they will have the opportunity to do things like their own poetry, do their own songs, sing stuff, give jokes, relate stories and stuff like that. And trust me, they enjoy that to the limit. Of course, there will be food and drink and so on, but those are the highlights. And so that comes off on the 26th of February. Now, during the course of the month, one of the other things, and here's where the Ministry of Education comes in, another one of our collaborators, we'll be organizing a primary schools quiz. The primary schools quiz starts on the 7th with a preliminary round where we will just be able to tell which schools can go to the semifinals. And then the following week, the 15th, then we'll have the semifinal round, where it determines the last 4 schools that will go to the finals, which will come off on the 28th of February. So on the 28th of February, 4 schools will be vying for the title of Primary School Quiz Champion. And it has been a very keen competition over the last many years. Now, I remember I mentioned when I was talking about Surprobing that I'll mention it again when I come to Primary Schools Quiz, because, again, part of the honor we gave for Surprobing, being the founder of History and Heritage Month, is that we have named the trophy that will be presented to the winning school as the Sir Probin Innis Memorial Trophy. Okay, the Sir Probin Innis Memorial Trophy. So the schools are vying for that on the finals, 20th of February 2023. And then we have what we call a Back to Roots pageant. That has not been determined a date yet, but hopefully it will come off sometime in March. But here is where we get the youth through the History Club of the CFBC to have like a kind of fashion and talent show that is centered around our culture and our heritage. And that's why it's called Back to Roots. And so they will be putting on a show. We'll let the public know as it comes off. Well, once it's finalized, what date and so on, and we look for your support and your participation.
Indeed, the lineup seems to be a very interesting one. It seems to be one that touches all sectors or all areas, age groups, categories.
Yeah, we start from the primary youth right up to the seniors.
Yes, so I like the lineup. I like the thought that was put in place in order to get in a lineup like this to touch all sectors of people. I see that the Back to Roots pageant is back on. I realize that would have been off for some time,
That's
and I
correct.
guess because of the COVID-19 and everything like that. And I think it would be a good idea. I think it's a good idea to continue it, because I think how it's presented is that you pick countries and you represent something in the heritage. And so while you're displaying talent, you're also displaying history, and persons can learn from it as well.
That's right.
I see the primary school quiz. That should be very interesting as well. Do you have, you might not have the information now, and you said that another group is planning that, but I hope that, as many primary schools take part in that quiz to really make it.
We have invited all of the primary schools to participate. All don't.
Yes.
Most of the time because of the various challenges as it may be. But there's some 21 or 23 schools that we invited. In other words, the government primary schools and the private primary schools. And so we have them all under that umbrella.
Yes. And what I find very good as well is that each partner within the history and heritage society, within that organization, is taking key charge of various things. And so it gives you more persons to work with. It gives other persons the opportunity to display their talents, their vision. And so you see a display of other persons' input in one product.
Yes, it's a collaboration.
So it's very good.
Yeah,
I look forward to seeing what is happening over the month.
And we usually, absent from this year's proceedings is Nevis. Because we normally have, as we mentioned earlier, the Nevis Historical and Conservation Society as a part of this, and they organize the events for Nevis.
Yes.
But I think right now we haven't heard from them. I think they have a few challenges staff-wise, and therefore we have not heard from them this year. But hopefully by next year we will have them fully back on board and organizing the events for Nevis.
Let me ask you, over the years, you have looked at the celebration even before you were instrumental in its plans. What is your view on how, from a child, you view these activities until now? I assume your view has changed. What are some of the changes you will have seen from your recollection in terms of this celebration of our history and heritage?
Well, changes. Can't think of anything straight off the button per se. But as we mentioned, this celebration started as a week of activities.
Yes.
Where we had one or two events. And then as time went on, we realized that there are a few other events that can be put in there and that can't be done within a week. And so that's where the idea came of migrating it from a week of activities to a month of activities. There are probably other things that we can start as new events into it, but that space of a month gives us even better opportunity to do that. But we don't want to crowd it too much either.
Yes.
Because you don't want to have too many things that people have to attend or pay attention to. And then they say, well, not only that, but organization-wise, it'll be a little tough too.
Yeah,
so
it would be.
We try to control it that way. But what we have found is that people pay some interest, but we would love to see greater interest. I seem to feel that our public is not, and this is why Sir Probin created this, because one of the things he felt was that our public didn't show much interest in our history, heritage, and culture generally. And therefore, he thought if something was done to highlight this a little more to them, that it might generate a little more interest. And I think it has been successful thus far. And I think people are now becoming a little more conscious and aware of our history and our heritage and how important it is. Because if we were to ignore our history and our heritage, we might find ourselves lingering in the wrong places, per se. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we are trying, of course, to make sure that we continue his legacy.
Yes.
And to get people interested in history and heritage. And we plan this year to make sure that we involve as many people as possible and to get them interested and fired up about our history and our heritage and culture.
Well, Mr. Hanley, it has been a very good discussion here this morning, talking about History and Heritage Month, the schedule of events, encouraging persons to, take part in such rich activities. It's a month-long celebration. It is the 400th year celebrating our ancestral creativity and ingenuity. It is something that, we encourage clinicians and individuals to be a part of. And of course, we welcome you at any time to our station, to WIN FM, our program here this morning, to speak on, matters of history and heritage as it concerns the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And again, I want to thank you for accepting the invitation, and thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be here with us this morning.
Well, as a famous person who remain unnamed says, I'll be back. So thank you very much for inviting me here. I was very delighted when you guys approached me about doing this, because funny enough, it hadn't crossed my mind, but it's such an excellent idea. And I'm really grateful to you all for coming to me and seeking my involvement in the program and airing our events so that the public can be aware. And we will be back, and we will be telling you and updating you as the month progresses. Thank you very much.
And I hope you have my copy. Percy? So I hope you have my copy of the program, because throughout the month we'll,
yes,
we'll plug the History and Heritage Month.
So guys, we're going to take a short break. We're going to acknowledge our sponsors, and we're going to get right back and ready with our next guest, who will be in studio momentarily.
We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
King Ocean, king of the Caribbean seas, announces king-size savings on shipments from Miami to St. Kitts. We have the best service and competitive rates on LCL and FCL cargo, including D&E containers, cars, heavy equipment, buses, boats, and barrels from Miami to St. Kitts. LCL pickup service anywhere in the U.S. Call local agents SL Hospital Company Limited at 869-465-4086 or 869-662-5008 for further details. King Ocean's king-size savings on shipments from Miami to St. Kitts Nevis. King Ocean, king of the Caribbean seas.
This is the official invitation to the Conscious Party.
Get conscious, get down to business every Wednesday with Conscious Business. Join the Conscious Musical Reasoning with Select the Highest, strictly positive and conscious music on Conscious Business on WinFM 98.9, winfm.com. Vibes include Business Education Corner, Business Quote of the Day, Agriculture Time, and Mama Love Track of the Day.
Mama, I don't ever want to see you cry.
Conscious Business is brought to you by Like New Steam Cleaning. You too can get exposure and awareness for your business when you call WinFM's sales department to advertise here. Conscious Business is positive growth.
It's 9 o'clock. Island Tea. First day of February 2023. And we're scheduled to have the Police Cooperative Credit Union in studio on deck. They're not here at the moment. So I hope they're hustling to make it to the studio. Well, it's Black History Month, and it's also History and Heritage Month in St. Kitts Nevis. And I thought this would be a good time to take you through the program of activities for this month's History and Heritage Month in St. Kitts Nevis. So we're going to be having a launch address sometime today on ZIZ. And there's a church service on Sunday at the St. George's Anglican Church. Library book display launch that happens on Thursday, February 9 at 10 a.m. at the Charles Halbert Library. And the now famous Sir Perwin Innes Memorial Lecture that happens on Wednesday and Thursday 22nd and 23rd February at 7 p.m. And that's going to be done via Zoom. Lecturer to be decided. And History and Heritage Month continues with the Cultural Fair and Exhibition Wednesday 22nd until Friday 24th at 10 a.m. at the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College. And there's the History and Heritage Hike on Saturday, February 25th at 6:30 a.m. at Brimson Hill. Senior Citizen Social, that happens on Sunday, February 26th at Matheson House at 3 p.m. and it's by invitation only. The Primary Schools Quiz, all about history and heritage. The finals, that takes place on February 28th. And the Back to My Roots pageant that happens in March. There's no date listed, at 8 p.m. at the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant grounds. I'm assuming that's, let's not assume. I'm assuming they haven't decided the date in March. But yeah, Back to My Roots pageant, March at 8 p.m. at the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College grounds. And the theme for History and Heritage Month is celebrating 400 years of ancestral creativity and ingenuity. So as we await the arrival of the Police Cooperative Credit Union, I think Azard, maybe we should look at some more news. How about that?
Of course, I really think we should look at some more news, and I'm seeing something here. Jamstar, we have Loop News by CMC, and the article is entitled U.S. Announces Process for Cubans, Haitians to Visit in an Orderly Way. And that was released just 2 hours ago on Loop Caribbean News. And it says the United States Department of Homeland Security has announced processes through which nationals of Cuba, Haiti, Venezuela, and their immediate family members may request to come to the United States in a safe and orderly way. Qualified beneficiaries who are outside of the United States and lack U.S. entry documents may be considered on a case-by-case basis for advance authorization to travel on a temporary period of parole for up to 2 years for urgent humanitarian reasons or significant public benefit, said the DHS in a statement. DHS said to participate in the process, eligible beneficiaries must have a supporter in the United States, undergo a clear and robust security vetting, meet other eligibility criteria, and warrant a favorable exercise of discretion. It says, quote, individuals participating in the process must have a supporter in the United States who agrees to provide them with the financial support for the duration of their patrol in the United States. It is said it is the first step in the process for the US-based supporter to file a Form 134A online request to be a supporter and declaration of financial support with the United States Customs and Immigration Services for each beneficiary they seek to support, including minor children. So, Jamster, from the article, what I'm gathering is that there is going to be some way in which persons from these countries may visit the United States, but there's an order and an orderly way where it is that someone first has to be in the United States belonging to these individuals, file a form, and then show within that form, after filing the form, show evidence that they can support the individual while that person is being processed for whatever time period.
And you know, since this was announced like 2 weeks ago, there's already been a drop-off of refugees showing up at the southern border, the Mexico and this is the reason for that, because they decided that they were gonna keep Title 14 in place for a little longer, and then come up with some way to, stop having people just showing up at the border.
Yeah,
and we read that story last week about Antigua.
Yes.
So all those Nigerians and so who had this, who had plans about making their way to the southern border, they're gonna have to,
But I think it's a step in the right direction, Jamster. I mean, persons like even Kitishans divisions here. We have family members in the United States, and we often visit those family members. We often visit these places because of interest, because we want to see the place, and likely
and then hide in the closet.
And also too, we have persons from other Caribbean countries who want to experience the same thing, and so for the United States to open up its borders, well, in an orderly way for now, even in this fashion, is something that is a step in the right direction for Cubans, Haitians, and the like,
Okay, absolutely. Okay, now I gotta loosen up. I really have to loosen up Azard. Let's get to something a little lighter now.
Okay, Jam. So it's your turn to bring the spin on this.
You take this lawyer thing. You're way too self-serious for me. Anyway,
that's self-serious.
Yes.
I have a balance, but of course you're the one who is in tune with the entertainment aspect and what's in the news as it relates to celebrities and all of this.
I'm gonna get cocky now, but I'm in tune with everything else too.
Okay.
Just saying. just saying.
Cool.
Anyway, so you have Netflix.
Yes, I do.
Okay, well, the new Eddie Murphy movie, You People, is doing some really big numbers on Netflix right now, and it hasn't been nominated for anything, but apparently I think it just broke a Netflix record. Let me just read this quickly. Just last week, the 2023 Oscar nominations were announced, and one of Netflix originals, All Quiet on the Western Front, it's another war movie, was nominated for the highly esteemed Best Picture prize. However, while that movie is currently sitting in Netflix's list of most watched movies, it was just surpassed by a movie that only came out 2 days ago. Wow. It's about 4 days ago now. You People features an all-star cast including Eddie Murphy, Jonah Hill, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Lauren London, Sexy Nia Long. I put in the sexy part. Huh?
Jumps.
David, but she's sexy.
Go ahead.
She's not sexy? David Duchovny. And more. You know David Duchovny, right? That's the guy from, oh my God, what's the name of that cop show again? You don't know David Duchovny.
Give me the name of the show, Jerem Stuff.
Oh, CSI.
CSI, yes.
Yeah, and there was another show he was on before. NYPD Blue. Oh, yeah. I remember.
Yeah, I know who you mean. I know who you mean.
So that sounds pretty interesting. And it seems this star power has helped the film to jump to number one, passing on the titles like Glass Onion, A Knives Out Mystery, and Bullet Train. So all those people out there with Netflix accounts, and maybe you haven't hit up Netflix in a while, go look for that Eddie Murphy movie. Because, actually, I remember last year at one time I was musing, man, I really wish Eddie Murphy would come back and start doing movies more regularly, and even stand-up. And, I guess you saw Coming to America too, right?
Yes.
So
nothing like the first one.
Yeah, no. It's okay.
Which is often the case when you have a really hit movie the first time. It's often very difficult to have that connection yet again.
But you know what movie is an outlier that they got nominated for a bunch of movies? The Top Gun movie that it first came out in 1986. Is it 1984? 1986 anyway, with Tom Cruise. The sequel came out last year.
Okay.
Top Gun Maverick. It's I think it's one of the nominees for Best Picture actually, which is very unusual for a sequel, especially like an action movie like that.
Yeah.
So you gotta check that out. You haven't seen that?
I have to check it out. I haven't seen it. I must admit. Okay. Sometimes I don't even have the time to look at Netflix as I wanted before.
You should have seen how panicked you look when I brought up that. Like you had your face like, what is this guy talking about? I don't know anything about movies. I spend my spare time reading law books.
And doing other things, but I mean, I the time will be there for that, and of course I do take time to look at Netflix,
Yeah.
but I just don't have the time as much.
Oh,
now.
one other thing I have to say about You People. You People is directed by Kenya Burris, the guy who did Blackish. He's a Blackish creator and also the showrunner, and he also was one of the writers on Girlfriends and Girls Trip. And Eddie Murphy, by the way, is doing Beverly Hills Cop 4 for Netflix. So we have that coming up soon.
Well, Jamsa, I'm glad we have you here because you'll be able to inform all of us of what is happening.
Yes,
in
and get
terms
you away
of
from
that.
those law books, man.
Yes.
Come on.
Well, it's good to always have a balance, and it's good to always have that person who would complement and would ensure that we have that balance on the show as well.
Yes.
So all of that is recognized, all of that is encouraged, and of course we have our listeners from various walks and persons who are looking forward to hear many different things in different areas.
Okay. One other thing on the Caribbean front, entertainment. I should have said I wanted to talk about it last week, but I didn't get around to it. Shaggy. Shaggy's a reggae and dancehall artist.
I know
right?
Shaggy, man.
Well,
I know Shaggy.
No, I was saying, he's a reggae and dancehall artist.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
he actually did a soca EP for Trinidad Carnival 2023. An EP stands for extended play, so it's not a full album. It's like between 5 songs usually.
Okay.
So all those people who are Shaggy fans and like Shaggy in soca mode, you can go check that out on iTunes and Spotify and all that. Just letting the soca lovers know. Yeah, he has a cool track with Kes called Mood. Yeah.
Well, I am sure the soca fans would appreciate that very much, especially considering Trinidad Carnival is coming up shortly, and persons I know are excited about Carnival.
A pity I can't talk law with you, so you could really get into it. I'm just playing.
I know, man. I know. It's good to have that.
9:14.
Yes. So it's 9:14,
and they have not shown up yet.
Yeah, but we are here. And we are going to continue with the news. We're going to continue with updates and everything that is happening. Jamster, there is an article, shortage of skilled workers affecting Jamaica, Guyana. So it's by Luke Douglas, and he says, the leaders of Guyana and Jamaica say shortage of skilled workers in their country is threatening to undermine the efforts of economic growth. Speaking at the Jamaica Stock Exchange Regional Capital Market Conference last week, Guyana's president said his country will have to import skilled labor in the short term to drive the economic growth being experienced there. He said, and I quote, "The opportunities in Guyana are far beyond oil and gas," end of quote, noting that workers are urgently needed to complete the many construction projects being undertaken. He goes on to say, and I quote, "The pace of development right now and the diversity of development brings a great challenge in terms of the supply of labor and the skill sets required to take the country forward. In the short time, we have to import the skills we don't have to achieve the targets and plans we are setting ourselves. While at the same time, we have to create an environment in which we are training Guyanese citizens in the area that are critical to achieving those targets." End of quote, based on the president of Guyana. The article goes on to say, major projects underway in Guyana include the US $100 million state-of-the-art technical education center, a hospitality institute to train more than 6,000 persons, 9 new hotels to be built by 2025, and 6 new regional hospitals and 4 specialty hospitals, the president said. He also disclosed plans for Guyana to invest in a regional food ecosystem supporting agriculture and infrastructure, transport and logistics, ecological services, and information and communications technology (ICT). Meanwhile, Jamaica's Prime Minister Andrew Holness also indicate the labor shortage poses a threat to the economic growth in his country. He said, and I quote, "Unemployment is now at approximately 6%, lower than it was at the pre-COVID times, and in fact, the lowest level of unemployment we have experienced in the history of Jamaica," end of quote. The Prime Minister said, however, such a low level of unemployment creates another set of problems which is of concern to the business community. He goes on, and I quote, "It is not that Jamaica is short of bodies to work." From the Caribbean, Jamaica, and Guyana, there seems to be possibilities there.
You don't want me to wake up on this one. Here's my question. I want to ask 2 questions. Maybe I should have stayed asleep for this one.
Mm-hmm.
Now that Guyana has oil and Jamaica has all this work, are they going to move back home? Just a question.
You know, when I read the article and I thought about your response, I said to myself, I know Jamso is going to say something about that. And
it's a fair question, right?
Yes.
I mean, they have oil. Guyana has all this oil now, and
Well, it's also an opportunity for persons around the Caribbean to go to these countries and to ensure that there is employment, especially when you look at the construction in Guyana. It seems to be a lot of construction that is going to be on the way. That is an area that our people can take advantage of.
And then you spoke about Jamaica. I mean, we have a lot of Jamaican workers here. So hey, your prime minister is telling you to come back home. There are jobs.
Well, the prime minister also said that it's not that they aren't persons in society, but they have to be weaned in. So of course, you could have that done.
Speaking of Guyana, actually, do you remember we played that clip yesterday with Letitia, right? Black Panther.
Yes.
Actress,
Guyanese
actress.
Yes.
She was presented with an honorary doctorate yesterday by the University of Guyana.
Oh, wow.
So she's having a whale of a vacation.
Yeah, that's some vacation.
I'm telling you.
That's some vacation. And it must be an amazing time for her. It must be an amazing time for the people of Guyana, having such a celebrity and herself having such an international platform, being able to highlight Guyana in this time.
And you realize how humble she was yesterday. She was talking about, I don't want to get into the politics, but whatever I can do to to help and the children. And I thought that was really nice.
That was really nice. And it goes back, it reminds me of Rihanna. It reminds me of Barbados. It reminds me how Barbados has welcomed their international star and has made her a national hero. And basically, both of them working together to give Barbados that international presence. Yeah. Just like we have athletes and celebrities in Jamaica, giving Jamaica that international presence. And so, we too, when I think about St. Nevis, we too can have that talent and that those persons out there who would give us that international presence.
I want to say, I have a sneaky suspicion that corruption article was because of us yesterday. I'm just going to be conceited.
I want to believe that as well. Want to believe that as well.
Let's try again. Rihanna, get Patrice Roberts to perform Mind My Business at the Super Bowl halftime show. No, I'm serious. It can happen.
Yes.
Rihanna, somebody tell Rihanna to get Patrice Roberts to come up and perform Mind My Business at the Super Bowl halftime show. Let's see if that works.
Let's see how that...
That reminds me of something that, Stephen Hawking, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And I think he was asked one time if time travel is possible.
Oh.
And do you know he actually set up an experiment, a controlled experiment to see. So he sent out invitations to a dinner party. Wait, you never look it up because I want to get it right, because he said that if anyone showed up based on how he did it,
Yes.
it would prove that time travel is possible. Go ahead.
Well,
talking. I'm
while
gonna
you're
look it up.
listening,
I'm
while
gonna
you're
look it up in
looking
the
up for that
meantime.
article, I want to share another. It is saying here, motorcyclist is Bermuda's first road fatality for 2023, and it says that a 40-year-old man in Bermuda, he is the first road fatality for 2023. The Bermuda police service said the man, whose identity they did not release, was riding a motorcycle east on the south road of Southampton on Sunday when, upon reaching the area of Henry VIII restaurant, he reportedly attempted to overtake a motor car traveling in the same direction and concluded with 3 other bikes traveling in a westerly direction. He was attended by the EMTs and transported to King Edward VII Memorial Hospital for further treatment, but was subsequently pronounced dead. There is a twist to the accident investigation, as police reported a firearm was found and seized at the scene. And this is now a quotation by the BPS, which said, "The recovery of the firearm and the fatal road traffic collision are being separately investigated at this time, as there is no direct link between the 2 incidents. Officers from the roads policing unit are conducting inquiries into the fatal collision. Detectives from the serious crimes unit are looking into circumstances surrounding the discovery of the firearm." End of quote. The police have asked members of the public for any information that they may have to assist with their investigation.
Okay. Yeah, so I found it. Folks, just reminding you that coming up at 9:30, we're going to be speaking via Zoom to the UPP, the Antigua UPP opposition leader, Jamal Pringle.
Yes.
So I found that story. Stephen Hawking hosted a party for time travelers, but no one came. And he said, I have experimental evidence that time travel is not possible. So,
yes.
So in 2009, Stephen Hawking ran an experiment that required champagne, balloons, and hors d'oeuvres to demonstrate that backward time travel probably isn't possible.
Yes.
It was a time traveler's party, but no one showed, and that was the point. So he said, I have experimental evidence that time travel is not possible. I gave a party for I gave a party for time travelers, but I didn't send out the invitations until after the party. I sat there a long time, but no one came. So that's basically what he did. It sounds silly, but it's a very profound experiment, I think, to prove.
Time traveling, it is something I think that we've all thought about at one point in time, whether or not it is possible, whether or not we can go back and perhaps change events.
So we'll find out on the Super Bowl. If Patrice Roberts shows up singing "Mind My Business" with Rihanna, we know they've been listening,
and they've been
because
listening to
we suspect that after that corruption story showed up today, right?
Yes.
So we have Jamal Pringle coming up in 3 minutes. The UPP opposition leader in Antigua.
Yes, so we're going to take a short break, and we're going to prepare for that guest, a very special guest here this morning. And so we are going to take a short break, acknowledge our sponsors, and get back to you.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Hey kids, drink healthy!
Reduce sugar chubby with the same great taste. Lots of magic fruity flavors, drink the more healthy way.
It tastes so yummy, chubby, chubby, chubby.
25% less sugar chubby. Be active, be healthy, drink lots of chubby. Kicking football, playing cricket, having fun in the sun.
It's chubby.
Reduced sugar chubby keeps you cool and refreshed.
It tastes so yummy, chubby, chubby.
chubby. Jumping rope, running races, have fun.
It tastes so yummy, chubby.
Drink the more healthy way.
Licia's. Lightly salted, tasty, and oh so fresh.
Licia's. Multigrain, crispy, full of flavor, and so guilt-free.
Licious, buttery blend, golden brown, melts in your mouth, and of course, you just want more.
Things that make you go, Licious, the new snack cracker from Wabisco. Buttery blend, multigrain, or lightly salted. Ready to snack straight from the pack. Try them today.
Island tea time. Just before 9:30. As we get ready to join UPP opposition leader Jamal Pringle out of Antigua. He'll be joining us by Zoom.
Okay, good morning yet again. It is 9:30 and I have with me the Honorable Jamal Pringle. The Honorable Jamal Pringle, he is on air. We have connected via Zoom, and I say good morning to our listeners again, those listening and those viewing on the social media platforms. Thank you. Jamal, good morning.
And good morning
Honorable.
to you, Mr. Gumbs, and good morning to the Win FM team, and good morning to Think It's Nevis.
Yes. So we have you just last month, Antigua and Barbuda Antigua and Barbuda had its general elections, and we saw your party, the UPP, successful in a number of seats. Before that, the last election before that, your party was only successful in capturing 1 seat, correct?
Yes.
Yes, and after that, you captured 6. What are some of the reasons you think would have been why? What are some of the reasons your team would have gained so much seats in this election, in your opinion?
Well, first of all, I just wish to congratulate the entire team on what we consider to be a victory. We may not have won the government, but in our view, we have won the elections, where we have a situation where the setup of the parliament, you have basically 9, which is very good for democracy.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to the sessions. But what led to the UPP gaining so much seat? There are a number of factors that influence the voters. For example, this started back prior to COVID. The government was elected in 2014. They had promised the people a number of projects. And to date, we have not seen a manifestation of these projects. They also promised the people that they would deliver water within 14 days to the people of Antigua and Barbuda. And 9 years after, we're still having the same challenges. A matter of fact, it's worse now than it was in 2014. Then COVID came, which in our view, the government could have handled that situation a lot better. We have seen the mandates, we have seen, all what transpired. On August 8th, persons were tear gassed. Persons were forced to go home because of their choice not to be vaccinated. So those are some of the factors. And also, we ran a very, very solid campaign, both on social media and underground. I know all the candidates were engaged within their constituencies. So we really put in the effort to ensure that we deliver for the people. We redeem the people of Antigua and Barbuda. We also had a situation where our policies were released years ago, and we just continue to give the people more policies as we get closer to the election. But here we have a government in office going into the election, and all they can speak about is the same old promises that they have given to the people of Antigua and Barbuda since 2014. And persons were fed up that cost of living is going up. And here we have a government in office did nothing for the people. Even during their campaign, we haven't heard a single policy that geared towards the people of this country and how they're going to significantly improve their lives. We also had a situation here where when we put our policies out there, the government takes them and implement them. Again, these are issues that the public and Antigua and Barbuda on a whole took into consideration and went for the change of government. We missed it by a few votes and a seat.
Yes, because
so
had Harold Lovell, yes, Harold Lovell,
the former political leader.
Yes, your former political leader, had he won that seat, then Antigua and Barbuda would have been in a completely different situation.
Yes, most definitely. And I want to thank him, though, for bringing the organization to a point where it is stronger than it has ever been. Because at no point I can remember that we in Antigua and Barbuda enjoy the benefit of such a tight election.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to commend him on a job well done.
Yes.
It happened so that he decided to retire, and I assumed the leadership. And I intend to move this organization forward positively. Brother Baldwin Spencer and those who came before him laid a solid foundation on which we must build. Because as a people first party, we must continue to fight in the interest of people. And given the mandate to lead this organization as the interim political leader until we go to convention, I will ensure that I do whatever it takes to bring this government into a space of accountability to the people of Antigua and Barbuda. It is necessary. It is our duty as the opposition to hold the government responsible.
Yes. It is always good for the opposition to do that. And you mentioned that you are the interim political leader until there is caucus and convention. When is the caucus and convention?
Well, the convention is tentatively scheduled for June. We haven't finalized the exact day yet, but I can assure the people that it's going to be in June.
Okay. You have assumed the leadership for the time being of your party, the United Progressive Party. What are some of your intentions as the interim political leader? What are some of your intentions for the first half of the year?
Well, we're looking to grow the organization significantly and to attract persons who are like-minded, who are people-centered, who believe in the philosophy of the party, to build an organization that is an institution where persons gravitate to that institution because the values of the organization align with their value. We're looking to move the United Progressive Party from in opposition to government so that we can offer the people of Antigua and Barbuda the best solutions to their situation. It is important for us to do that because we have boasted that we are a people-centered organization and we put people first. And the first thing that we must do is to be able to use the resources of state in the interest of people and not in politicians' interest. Mm-hmm. We have seen that within the last term or consecutive terms of the Antigua Barbuda Labour Party, where ministers continue to be rich while the people of this country gets poorer. So again, those are just some of the things that we are looking at in terms of growing the organization and to fulfill the mandate of the people, where we put them first, where we are able to manage the resources of state in the interest of the people and not in our own interest.
What were some of your key points going into the election? What were some of your key points as a party going into the election that you would want to tell us, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis and others listening?
Well, we look at the cost of living. Persons are struggling here in Antigua and Barbuda, and I would assume in St. Kitts as well. But your government would have put things in place to help cushion some of what the challenges are for the people of Antigua and Barbuda, for St. Kitts.
Yeah.
So they would have put policies in place. They would have looked at reduction in certain areas to offer some relief to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Yes.
I would assume.
Yes. During that
Here
time,
in Antigua and Barbuda, we cannot boast of such. Anything that we saw as a benefit to the people happened on the eve of an election. We were calling for government to lower the gas price when the gas price worldwide was at its lowest. They refused to. But on the eve of the election, they did that. Now, we're saying the people of this country worth a lot more than that. So we offer them, we understand that based on what is happening worldwide, we have no control over the shipping cost. But what we do have control over is the taxes that are charged at the port. And we promised the people that we were going to reduce, and in some cases, eliminate duty on essential items that they need, such as food, toiletries, and because, again, our duty is to offer relief. We also looked at the water situation. Yes, we are a drought-prone country. Yes, drought has affected us. And we are not naive to the fact that climate change is a real threat to us here in Antigua and Barbuda. However, we put a plan in place of how we were going to change the water situation. We had consultation with different stakeholders here in Antigua and Barbuda and around the world, because we believe that as a human being, it is your right to go to your tap and turn it on, and there is water. So we have had extensive discussions with persons who have been a part of the water industry, providing potable water, distribution, storage. These are things that we have discussed and we have packaged, because we have promised the people that we are going to change the situation, though it's going to take a period of time to totally change that situation. We give them a plan of how we intend to do that.
Okay. Interestingly, we here in St. Kitts and Nevis also have problems as it relates to water shortage and the like. Another question I have for you is, at first, after the last election, you were the lone parliamentarian for your party. Now, in addition to the independent candidates, you have 5 other members of your team, the UPP. What was your experience then, and what do you look forward to now, having those 5 members with you?
I would say back in 2018, I was literally a freshman to politics. No prior experience. Don't have any per resource person sitting next to me to help guide the process. it was a lot for me to learn. But I realized that the confidence of the people in Antigua and Barbuda in me was so great that I had to put away the fear and rise to the occasion to fulfill the mandate given to me by the people who elected me. I will say it was a bit of a unstable start for me, navigating through the halls of Parliament without, the guidance of persons being there to help guide the process. But I learned, and I think based on the resounding victory, I have fulfilled the mandate given to me by the people of All Saints East and St. Luke, and by the thousands who voted for the United Progressive Party. And to the fact that I'm here sitting as the interim political leader, it shows that they have seen in me what it takes for me to carry this party and this country forward.
Yes.
So during that period, it was challenging, and I must say, it was at first when I looked across the Parliament, realizing that there are many persons over on that side who entered this political arena before I was even born. And these are the people that I must face off with in the interest of the people of Antigua and Barbuda.
Yes.
It was a bit intimidating at first.
Jamal,
and then you are... Yes?
Yeah, this is the co-host, Jamster. I had a question. Mr. Lovell, actually, who I had the pleasure of interviewing in Antigua when he was Minister of Tourism, he's lost his seat 3 times in a row. Is the perception, does the perception match the reality? Because I frankly found that surprising. I wanted your comments on that situation, and also what's going to happen if Mr. Lovell is going to be abandoning politics.
Well, that's a choice that Mr. Lovell would have to make, and he would be the best person to speak on that. But what I would say, though, coming through, we're well ahead. It is sad that it has resulted the way it did, because clearly the people would have made a decision, and as to why they made that decision, it's for us to continue to have discussions with them and interactions with them, so that we can get a true understanding of what the people of the City East constituency is looking for that they didn't see in the former political leader.
Mm-hmm.
It also could be a situation where, and we're still doing our research on that, because the list that was supposed to be published within 14 days of the writ was never published in the time it should. And so persons, and this is not definitive because we're still doing the investigation, we believe that there are persons who made the list that we never got time to object to, based on the list, based on the fact that the list came out roughly 3 to 4 days before the election, the final list.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of speculation surrounding that. that we're doing our research on. So again, we cannot say definitively this is the reason why he was rejected.
Okay. And
at this point, we must and also to have dialogue with the people of the City East constituency.
yes.
Notwithstanding that the Labour Party did a number on him in during their former campaign and spew a lot of lies that some persons tend to run with. But when you have meaningful discussions and you interact with them, they're just repeating what was put out there by the Antigua Barbuda Labour Party.
If you're just joining us, it's the UPP opposition leader, Jamal Pringle, out of Antigua and Barbuda, and he joined us at 9:30. Do you want to take a few questions, possibly?
Sure.
Via phone. So, listeners, if you have any questions for Mr. Pringle, give us a call, 466-0989, 662-0989, and 762-0989. Let me ask you a lighter question. What can you say about the storied the storied rivalry between St. Kitts Stevens and Antigua Barbuda? You know that's always a running joke between Kittitians and Antiguans. Give us a light story about that.
I'm yet to see that. I'm yet to have that experience. Those persons whom I've came in contact with within St. Kitts and Nevis has welcomed us, or welcomed me with open arms. I haven't seen the rival between us, but
you never seen it between sports, cricket, basketball, football,
You know, when it comes to football, we're on top of our game, so St. Kitts and Nevis would have to settle and come behind us, but differently.
So Jamal, is there any as we await callers, if they're going to call, is there anything you want to say, any final words in terms of anything, policies, what we can expect of you, what we can expect of your team going forward?
Well, what I will say is that you can expect a very, very aggressive opposition here in Antigua and Barbuda, because we have some issues and we're still seeking answers to these questions. For example, you would have heard of the many flights came in from West Africa. And yes, we're a tourism country.
Okay,
yes, we
have
welcome
a caller.
people.
We have a caller, Jamal, not to cut you off. We have the caller.
Yes.
Alan T, go right ahead for Jamal Pringle.
Good morning. Good morning, especially to you, the host from Antigua. When was the last
Good morning.
When was the last time Antigua beat St. Kitts in football, and why did the Leeward Island tournament was destroyed? Was it because of Antigua getting toast blows from St. Kitts? Good morning, thank you.
That's pretty funny.
Yes.
I would have to go and seek the stats on that.
That's a goalkeeper. That's a storied goalkeeper. So watch what you say.
Okay. But I'll have to go and get the stats so that I can answer you correctly.
No problem. But Jamal, as you conclude, and you were telling us of what we can expect of your opposition.
Yes, a very forceful opposition, robust in our approach. We're going to utilize all the means of being an opposition. More so, we're going to maximize the courts, because it has been an avenue that I've found we haven't utilized enough. And I can tell you, for the short time before we go to convention, I will ensure that I put together a legal counsel so that we can aggressively oppose some of the things that put forward by the government once it's not in the interest of, we find it's not in the interest of people. And that is going to be one of the main focus going forward. I was telling you about what is happening in Antigua and Barbuda, as it relates to those flights, the Antigua Airways.
Yes.
Now that commenced on the 1st of November. And a few days ago, it came out in the cabinet notes that they're suspending flights.
Yeah, we spoke about it here on our show.
And, with all the fanfare that, surrounded that inaugural flight, where we were promised wealthy Africans, we were promised investors, and to see the same government is now calling these Africans refugees. Now, the fact that you are suspending flights that started recently, roughly 2-3 months ago, it's a cause for concern. Now, we're faced with a situation where persons are on the ground. We're not hearing from the government except what was said the other day in the cabinet briefing. And in my view, it was vague. We have to now look seriously at the future of Antigua and Barbuda. It is alleged that some of these Africans came here with Antigua and Barbuda passport. Now we're hearing that the United Kingdom is going to review our CIP program in the interest of their national security. Now we have seen that we have lost visa-free access to Canada. Is it a situation that the UK is privy to information that the public doesn't have, which may lead to us losing that access as well, visa-free access as well? So these are some of the things that we'll be aggressively pursuing answers for the people of Antigua and Barbuda. Because it's a cause for us. Persons are here. Yes, we're a tourism country. We welcome people to Antigua and Barbuda. However, it's a process. Things must be done the right way. For example, if you're coming from St. Kitts and Nevis, you must have a return ticket to St. Kitts. It is also alleged that these persons came here on a one-way ticket. So we need answers from the Prime Minister, who was at the forefront of pushing this Antigua Airways, who is now mute on that issue. We need to know exactly what it is that Antigua and Barbuda has entered into with the Antigua Airways. We also, I don't know if it reaches you, but the situation that we're seeing letters of some money to be moved through Antigua and Barbuda, we also want to know whether or not this is factual. We're not hearing anything from the government on that issue. So I can assure you that you will be seeing a robust opposition in the months or the weeks to come, or days to come. Because these are serious issues. We're tired of persons for their own interests enter into arrangements with several different persons under the guise of Antigua and Barbuda. But yet still Antigua and Barbuda cannot boast of the benefit from these arrangements. We look at the Yida, we look at the Western Imperial, we look at the Kalaluke. We haven't seen anything as it relates to the benefit of the people of Antigua and Barbuda.
Oh, yeah.
But what we're seeing, for example, in the case of Yida, either is up for sale if it hasn't been sold already. Now, what Antigua and Barbuda benefited from that? We didn't see the employment. You look at the Western Imperial, the only person benefited from that was basically the Prime Minister who rented his home to the person who heads the Western Imperial Company. So again, what is it benefiting us, the people who have worked tirelessly, paying our taxes? We have to also look at the pensioner situation. The social security situation is a serious one because it doesn't only affect the person on pension, but it's affecting maternity persons who are on maternity seeking benefit. It's affecting persons who are waiting for sick benefit. So again, we are yet to hear from the government how they're going to address these things. We have been asking before. We put forward a proposal as to what should happen, where the government must inject $20 million into Social Security right away. Because we have been, during our campaign, we understand the challenges faced by the persons awaiting their pension. Some persons have no other means of income. So the continuous late payment of pension and benefits to people is something that we need to fix immediately.
Yeah.
And we're not hearing how this government intends to remedy the situation.
Okay.
Jamal, I don't know if you're aware of some comments that Gaston Brown made in reference to some former politicians here in St. Kitts. Are you aware of this?
I just heard the clip. I just heard the clip, and I think that is rather. I was appalled when I heard it, to the extent that people would go for political power. It's a real cause, and when I heard it, I myself became fearful of being in politics. And when though it was very, very, very a very broad statement. When the person zeroed in on what one other person was willing, how far they were, he or she was willing to go. It's a cause for concern. And I don't think any person out there, whether in St. Kitts, Antigua, Trinidad, or anywhere in the world, that they are seeking political office or pursuing a political dream of becoming a politician. Hearing that, I guarantee you they would think twice.
I think what he's referring to is the crossover of persons from one side to the other from the parties. Correct, Jamal? That's what you're referring to?
Well, Well, you probably didn't hear the other part then.
Okay.
Because there's another part.
Oh well,
That
actually,
one
yeah. I'm talking about this stuff. He said some really.
I know he made some mention to persons
some
here in
really,
St. Kitts and Nevis.
exactly.
So you're
Based
speaking
on
to
what
that
the
as
plan,
well.
what the plan, how they should do and what they should do. The plans. That's not what you're talking about. Where one person said, when he said one person was willing to even, and he said he told them that's too far. He will be crown evidence or crown witness.
No, actually, there's
That's
some
not what
pretty. There are even some worse. There are even some worse comments, which I would describe as unstatesmanlike.
Okay.
Yes,
So
I guess
again,
there are various comments that have been made by the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, that persons have their own views on various comments. Jamal, it has been a pleasure speaking with you this morning in studio. Of course, we welcome you again at any time. We realize that the political arena, the environment is ever changing. It is constant. And so from time to time, we will reach out to you to get your views and your opinions on what is transpiring in Antigua and Barbuda. And likewise, we hope to listen to other political parties in Antigua and Barbuda and other representatives so they too can share some light. Perhaps in the future, we could have persons who represent different political parties here at the same time and have a sharing of ideas, a somewhat debates, But Jamal, we welcome you anytime, and the invitation will be extended to you on future occasions.
I want to thank you for having me. And once I'm able, I'll make myself available to have discussions. I think that is part of the job, and I intend to be engaged and to sell my vision to the world, and not only to Antigua and Barbuda. So thank you for having me. I am delighted to be a part of your program, and I look forward to other opportunities that I can be engaged, and share my views on various topics.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jamal.
Thank you.
There we had it. We had a very pat morning this morning, but a good morning nonetheless. And as we conclude this morning's program, I wish to share a quote with you from Dionne Warwick. And she says, "A fool will lose tomorrow reaching back for yesterday." So a fool will lose tomorrow reaching back for yesterday. Have a pleasant day and join us tomorrow, God's willing, on another edition of Island Tea, your morning program here on WIN FM.